I learned while I was making this film, through talking to these people, but also talking to people in Greece who have gone through a similar experience of being refugees themselves, that there is not one person that wants to leave their homes, to leave everything behind, and there is not a hardest and more kind of violent feeling of having to do this, especially under these circumstances. These people do not want to go to Europe. They do not want to go to America. They have no other option, and they're just in this fine line between life and death. And these are the people that are not allowed to come in this country, and oftentimes are also finding it's extremely hard for them to find a better situation, better circumstances in Europe. So yeah, these are the phases of the people.
For me, my experience by embarking into this family for 3 years, and it's, I think, this for me the most special part of it was it's a female Muslim family. It's a world which is so difficult to enter, to be part of it, especially if you're a foreign male reporter or documentary filmmaker. So I think the mother and the father being very aware about the need and the urge of a counter narrative, of telling another story, but not. I mean, the only story which is coming out right now is bearded man's chopping off heads, and this is dictating an entire a narrative for an entire religion, and we do see the danger of if not something else is kind of it's coming out of these countries, because xenophobia and social divide and hate and fear is what's happening all around the world, and it's actually exactly this people, children, families, women who've been leaving and escaping the very same danger from the Islamic State. This is the worst part of this tragic part of history right now, that themselves are fleeing the violence of the Islamic State, and they're now denied to enter several parts of the world because they are identified with the monster who's been created.
I don't think this is probably the right place to debate how we solve the crisis in Syria. But maybe just one particular policy which has emerged in the last 2 weeks that I can talk about. Making this film was incredibly difficult, and when we found out that we were nominated for an Oscar, we were obviously completely over the moon. We always thought that if this film would ever receive an accolade of some sort, that we'd of course want to bring our cinematographer Khaled Khatib, who's a volunteer White Helmet, and Riyad Salah, who's the leader of the White Helmets that you see in the film. And so, the moment we found out, we started talking with them about coming into the Oscars, because it offers such an incredible platform for them to talk about their work and to be recognised and celebrated. And within 36 hours, this new executive order came into place. So, of course, that was incredibly disappointing for them. I talk about it because I actually think it's a really lost opportunity for America. As both Marcel and Daphne said, the voices of people from other parts of the world, especially from places like Syria, are so important at the moment to bridge misunderstanding. But also in a world which is so divided, and my country, I'm from the UK, is just as divided as here at the moment. The message of compassion and dignity, which the White Helmets just embody, I think that's a really important message, and it's just such a shame that they're not going to be able to be here to share it with everybody.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, since this new administration has assumed the reins of power in this country, all films have been reframed. There's been a sort of wave of energy rippling through the documentary community, and we've seen all of our work in a new and startling light. And There was a wonderful article that was making the rounds. I encourage you all to look it up. I think it was called "All Films Are Political," and it made the point that, from the most benign animation to the most overt political film, everything that we contribute to our cultural fabric matters. And I think we all feel that, as documentary filmmakers, we feel the weight of that responsibility more than ever before. I think for me it comes back full circle to where we started, about empathy, courage, dignity, things that are clearly missing from our national dialogue at this moment. And I think one of our primary responsibilities as storytellers is to imbue that dialogue with empathy and respect in a way that we're not experiencing right now.
Amen. And I mean, on our end, it's funny, just very recently, Kahani and I were with two of the subjects in the film, Coco, who's the music teacher, and Brianna Perez. And all four of us looked at each other and we realized we're all first-generation immigrants. And my family came under dramatic circumstances in the Cold War in 1972 and really left everything to come to this incredible country. And it was all about like giving me the life of the American dream. And from Latvia, and my grandpa survived the Holocaust, but this is a whole other story. But for us, really, I think making this film, it just really reaffirms, like, what is this country about? Like, what are our shared values? Like, what do we stand up for? And I think exactly those issues you're talking about, compassion, dignity, respect. I mean, I can go on and on. I know Kahani will want to add something, but even the extra dimension of music and arts education for us, like, it became so imperative what an arts education gives to a young person in this country. Like, it's astounding how these lives are changed by learning music. A simple thing changes lives.
Yeah, and to echo that, and also, Dan, what you mentioned, how everything's political, is there were many themes in our film, including arts education, which is obviously very threatened right now. But after the election, it occurred to me that I hadn't really thought through how the film is about two immigrants in our country, and then that they are exemplary people who make up this country, which has always been a refuge for people. They were for my father, who was not born in this country, and came here and worked hard and paid his taxes and prospered and waves the flag. And the thought of, people like Joe or Brianna or anyone associated with any of the films here not being able to find refuge here is pretty devastating. And so unintentionally, a film that we made about the human connection through a violin post election has taken on this new meaning. And there was this moment that just was one of those things that happened, but at the end of the film, when Joseph is leaving the school, and an Uber, pre-Uber being political, came to pick him up, and they say goodbye, and he leaves, and it drives off. And the Uber, as many Ubers are, especially in New York, or is driven by an immigrant, has a little American flag on it that at the time, it was such a typical sight, I didn't think anything of it. But as soon as the election happened, I was watching it at a screening, and I was like, wow, the immigrant in that car is driving the immigrant away from the school who's just had this incredible bond with this, Dominican girl. And I thought it was like very, not just about what New York is, but about what the fabric of our country is and should be, and what I think makes it a tremendous, amazing, and strong place. So the thought of anyone who needs a safe place to come, not being able to come here, to me is personally devastating.